Has the head of Wagner Group given up on taking Bakhmut, or is there something more at work here? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's May 5th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. First, as always, guys, you know, Patreon always giving me the boot, and YouTube regularly demonetizes my content, sometimes for reasons that I don't really make any sense. So I launched my own site, combatvetnews.com. This is the site where you can get all the news stories that I can't cover in my daily updates. As you can see, you know I'm doing God's work because we're out here getting hit with Russian bots. But don't worry, I've got literally a full-time guy doing nothing but running the site. So we also have all my YouTube videos on here for free. But if you want to support what I do, become a member. You get access. Any one of the tiers is going to get you access to the premium content. New videos drop every Friday. And last Friday, we took a look at, honestly, some GoPro footage of trench clearing that looks like World War I. It was wild stuff. So if you want to support what I do, combatvetnews.com is the place. Okay, but let's get into the other stories here, right? The big stories. First, we take a look at the control map. It lists the only change as being out here near Novo Bakhmut Kativa. And as you can see, it's a minor change, a small strip of forest change in hands into Russian hands from Ukrainian hands. And I think, again, I wouldn't put too much credibility in these sort of minor repositioning type work. Simply because, again, this is something that's always going on along the front lines. The other stories, though, if we take a look at the combat map, you can see there hasn't really been an update. But let's talk about the big story. The big story is Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, announcing that his troops are going to pull out of Bakhmut. Now, I am confident that this isn't some bunk story or some stretch or misinterpretation. Again, thanks to Ground News. As always, the link to them is in the description. They are a supporter of the channel. But again, it's easy because I use their service all the time to make sure that what I report is legit. And as you guys can see, the reporting on this is very good. These are highly respected outlets: Reuters, AP, right? Dozens and dozens of outlets, left, right, and center. Even RT itself is reporting it, and The Guardian. So, you know, you see this sort of stuff, right? Medusa, which is actually a Russian, basically a Russian, like, left-leaning newspaper, like a one that they don't really like. I don't think it even operates in Russia. I think they operate outside of Russia now. So, you know, if Medusa and RT are reporting a story, then there's no way the Russian government can even get around it. I wonder if I can see how it's being spun by RT. That itself is probably more interesting than anything else. There's AP. All right. If I can find it. If not, that's fine too. Man, this is so extensively reported. But there's Medusa's, Daily Mirror, Reuters. There we go. RT. Okay. All right. But this is the CBC, right? The Canadian Broadcast Service is going to play this straight. And they're reporting that Prigozhin has said, in the absence of ammunition, his troops are doomed to perish senselessly. And that on May 10th, they're going to be withdrawing from Bakhmut, ending their involvement in the longest and bloodiest battle of the war. He says, quote, "I declare on behalf of Wagner fighters, on behalf of Wagner Command, that on May 10th, 2023, we are obliged to transfer positions in the settlement of Bakhmut to units of the Defense Ministry and withdraw the remains of Wagner to our logistics camps to lick our wounds." He says, "I'm pulling units out of Bakhmut. In the absence of ammunition, they're doomed to perish senselessly." Now, I want to point some stuff out here. First, we got to understand what this means. The 10th is a week from now. And as you guys can see here, based on this combat map, in the next couple days, Bakhmut seems likely to fall. If not fall, then Ukrainian forces will remain only on the outskirts. It'll be a mopping up operation. And for Wagner Group, they can probably say effectively that they have taken Bakhmut. they will be able to make that claim credibly. Again, they were making the claim when they controlled less than 50% of the city, but now with 75% of it, 80% of it under their control, and in the next 5 days, they probably are going to try to surge forward, take as many of these remaining blocks as they can. I suspect probably there will be a small contingent along the last like urban areas of the city, but that'll be about it. Based on Wagner's current progress. So functionally, they will have done all the work they set out to do in Bakhmut, and they are going to go home. And supposedly, there's some rumors that actually Wagner troops whose contracts are up may actually have been forced to or instructed to remain pending the conclusion of the Battle of Bakhmut. So I think that makes sense. I think the other thing is, so again, it's sort of like completing the task and then like saying, oh, I actually quit because I'm tired. And it's like, bro, the job's done. Like, yeah, you're not quitting because you're tired. You're quitting because you finished. But I think what's more significant is that Prigozhin is not allowing anyone to order him around and order his Wagner group around, right? He's packing up his toys and going home, which is important because he probably wants Wagner group to be perceived as being an essential linchpin to the Russian war effort. And when the Ukraine counteroffensive starts, which Prigozhin has said explicitly he believes it has started, what he doesn't want is Wagner group to, one, be associated with what he has said he thinks is going to be a tremendous Russian failure. Two, he doesn't want his Wagner group troops to be used as cannon fodder in a losing effort. And three, he doesn't want his Wagner group troops to be sent on missions they won't come back from by the Ministry of Defense in the face of this Ukrainian counteroffensive, because without Wagner group, Prigozhin isn't a power broker, right? His power comes not just from his money, but from the actual ability to wield violence. And his Wagner group is a tremendous source of power for him. So he is going to simply, again, come out on top no matter who wins, like every good, slimy politician. And he's going to take his toys and go home. He's going to sit out the Ukrainian counteroffensive and mock the Russian Ministry of Defense as they lose. He's going to point out again and again that the Russians were gaining territory when Wagner was involved in the fight, and when they weren't, they were losing territory. And he's going to claim that that's because Wagner is so good, right? And he's going to rebuild his Wagner group, improve their training, improve the capabilities of the survivors, and leverage that private military in order to grow his own power and influence in the war and probably in the Kremlin generally. So to sit there and say, again, the one thing he's not doing is leaving because of lack of ammunition. He's been complaining about a lack of ammunition since Russian forces were on the eastern outskirts of Bakhmut. And yet that hasn't stopped them from block by block grinding their way across the city at tremendous casualties and eventually even reaching a functional conclusion to the Battle of Bakhmut. Let's take a look at how RT. Now, bear in mind, guys, RT is a Russian state media outlet. So how they are covering this is really intriguing to me. Right? Okay, so it acknowledges that it was accompanied, the video was accompanied by an open letter addressed to the Defense Ministry, the President, and the people. He complained his forces were not receiving enough artillery munitions, were unable to continue to hold the city, which it's describing as a regional logistics hub, which is generous, and has been the site of months of urban warfare. Interesting. They give some quotes. They selected the quote that he describes that paramilitary bureaucrats have cut off his troops from nearly all artillery munitions. The offensive resources of PMC Wagner ran out at the beginning of April. We are advancing despite the fact that the enemy forces outnumber us by 5 times. That's completely nonsense. Wagner loss are growing exponentially every day. They also inserted a quote that despite all this, the Council of Wagner PMC commanders has decided to hold their positions and continue the offensive on Bakhmut until May 10th in order to celebrate a sacred holiday for Russians, May 9th, Victory Day, with the brilliance of Russian weapons. He concluded by saying, "We will lick our wounds when the motherland will be in danger. We will once again stand for its defense. The Russian people can count on us." Interesting. This is very interesting. So this sort of implies, again, that they'll return when they feel that Russia is in danger. The Russian people can count on us. And if you know anything about coups d'etats, they almost certainly are couched in this fundamental idea that the existing leadership or a new president in whatever country is corrupt and such a danger to the people that they cannot be allowed to remain in power, and someone must stand against them, and that the person launching the coup is doing so on behalf of the people of the country. So it feels a little bit like he might just be laying the groundwork to make himself president of Russia one day. Very interesting stuff, guys. Anyway, thank you guys, as always, for joining me. Things are just getting weirder and weirder, man. Anyway, thank you to my supporters. Thanks so much to our Colonel tier members. You guys are just invaluable to me. Thanks to our Lieutenant tier members out here supporting the channel on combatvetnews.com. I really appreciate you guys, and I will catch y'all in the next one.